Motivation is fleeting. Its role is to get us moving, not to keep us moving. On the other hand, our habits and systems that we put in place, they help us to make things easy. Their role is to help us keep going over time, no matter how the circumstances around us change. Welcome to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast, helping ambitious introverts who feel deep down that they can add more value to the world to really thrive in their work. I'm Mariela Franker, and I'll be sharing what I'm learning as an introverted entrepreneur, a natural productivity coach, and a mom while I build my business online and take care of my family and myself. In this podcast, you'll learn the mindset and the practical steps to naturally increase the impact of your work while making space for your unique strengths as an introvert. I kept noticing that a lot of the times people felt that motivation was the problem. There are usually two reasons why we feel low energy. Is one, we're either not recharging enough or in a way that suits us, or two, we don't do enough of the things that really light us up. That area is when we usually think there's something lacking in my motivation. I just don't know what my unique skills are, or I just don't know how I contribute to the world. So one of the mistakes that I see people make when they find that they're getting stuck is they overly rely on motivation and inspiration. It's either that, I'm just sit here and wait until that inspiration comes and you do nothing. Or is this lost, like, I don't know why I'm not motivated and I'm doing things, but it's just all over the place. And I'm busy, I'm doing a lot, but I never feel like I'm actually accomplishing anything. And this is why overly rely on motivation, that's actually a faulty strategy. If you understand the role of motivation, you can actually understand that that's not helpful. Motivation is fleeting. Its role is to get us moving, not to keep us moving. On the other hand, our habits and systems that we put in place, they help us to make things easy. Their role is to help us keep going over time, no matter how the circumstances around us change. This is why I believe that focusing on habits and systems is much more helpful to really bring out the best in yourself and to help manage your energy efficiently so that you can continue to give your best to the people that you're helping. I thought I'd give a couple of personal examples of my top habits and systems that help me manage my energy. So the first one is quiet time. Quiet time is really, really important for introverts. I talked about that specifically in another episode. So if you want to deep dive into that, I'll link to that in the description. I take my quiet time super seriously. People are always surprised when I say that sleep is not enough to recharge yourself as an introvert. Sometimes I wish it were. And honestly, I used to think that I could sleep my way to feeling refreshed. I used to sleep 9 hours to even be functional. And there were times that even that wasn't enough to feel fully recharged. Obviously, now that we have a kid, that has changed for a multitude of reasons. But I've also noticed that by focusing more on my habits and systems, it's weird, but it seems like I need less sleep on average. And I'm very careful with this, okay? I'm phrasing this very carefully because sleep is essential. I'm not going to say, 5 hours of sleep should be a target for everyone. Honestly, I believe personally that it shouldn't be a target for anyone because sleep has a very important biological role in our health and well-being. For me personally, and I'm also not saying that this will be true for everyone, but for me personally, I've noticed that I went from needing 9+ hours of sleep and never feeling refreshed to happily going through my day with 7 to 8 hours of sleep on average, which is the average that so far we sort of agree on that a human being needs to survive. One of the reasons why this has shifted for me is because I'm taking much more quiet time during the day. And quiet time basically is reflection time, okay? Even if we're not actively reflecting and thinking things through, being quiet and still by yourself is one of the ways that most introverts reflect internally, and one of the primary ways that most introverts recharge. So, getting more of that in my day, even if it was like tiny snippets, 5 minutes here and there, that's how I started. That has had a huge difference and shifted this a lot for me. And I take that super, super seriously. I've created systems around that to make sure that I get my reflection time every day. Even going so far as to scheduling it in. You got to do what you got to do. In the beginning, I really needed to schedule some breaks just to remind myself. And now I don't necessarily need to schedule it anymore. But I take that just as seriously as I take my client calls. That is a serious appointment that I have to not interact with other people. And another area where habits and systems have been really, really important for me is around food and nutrition. So I haven't talked a lot about this topic yet. I once did a masterclass or training where I shared in a lot of detail about how I approach that and my ideas behind the topic. And I discussed this quite a lot with people in person. This is the first time that I'm sharing about that specifically in a podcast. I've been on a long nutrition journey that started with some health issues that I had in the past that got me to really reassess the way that I was eating and my relationship with food, basically. And since I started doing that and changing the way that I eat has had a major positive effect on my energy levels as well. And the biggest deal for me was that I was able to decrease medications. One example is that I've been taking asthma medication ever since I was a child. And I've been able to reduce that by surely 70% of the amount of medicine that I'm taking. Building habits and systems around food, that has really been essential in our household because my partner and we both have demanding jobs. I work full time in my business, and my partner is working part time for a company right now while running 3 smaller businesses on the side. Then, of course, we have our little boy who needs a lot of attention and who we also want to give a lot of attention. And I actually don't like cooking. Sometimes I wish I liked cooking, but I don't. I never liked cooking. I like eating. I like the whole sitting together and eating. I like that. I like enjoying food, but I don't like making the food. So I'm always looking for ways to get delicious and also nutritious meals on the table without spending a lot of time in the kitchen. And so just to kind of sum up, because I feel I've been rambling a little bit, but I just wanted to share with you a couple of personal examples of systems and habits that help me manage my energy. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and let's talk again next week. Thank you for listening to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast. If you're an introverted entrepreneur and you're ready to thrive in your own way, then connect with me on thefrankermessage.com/contact.